This story is very meaningful. Everyone should hear it. Listen to Brian tell the story. I was sitting in the passenger seat of Sophie's beat-up Honda, the engine still ticking from her drive over when she said it. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, her voice cracking like a dry twig underfoot. For a split second, my chest swelled. Pure, dumb joy, like we'd just stumbled into the future we'd talked about over late-night beers and blueprints. I opened my mouth to say something stupid like, "We'll move the wedding up." But then she kept going, her hands strangling the steering wheel. "There's more. It might not be yours." Everything stopped. The air in the car turned thick, like I was breathing mud. My ears rang, a high-pitched whine drowning out the world. I stared at her hazel eyes red-rimmed and darting anywhere but at me, and I felt this cold, sharp thing twist in my gut. "Might not be mine," I said, my voice sounding foreign, hollowed out. She wouldn't answer, just sat there choking on her own breath. "Who else, Sophie?" I pressed, louder now, my hands clenching into fists on my knees. She made this broken little noise like a wounded animal, and I knew. I fucking knew before she even said it. "Tell me it's not Alex," I demanded, my voice a steel blade. She didn't deny it. She just crumpled, her shoulders shaking, and mumbled, "It wasn't supposed to happen." I laughed, a harsh, ugly bark that scraped my throat raw. "Oh, right, you just tripped and landed in my brother's bed?" She flinched, tears streaking her face, but I didn't care. Not anymore. That was the moment my life split in two. Everything I'd built, 6 years with Sophie, a lifetime busting my ass for my dad's electrical business, every dream I dared to let myself have, cracked open and spilled out onto that driveway like blood from a fresh wound. I'm Jake Larson, 33 years old, a guy who thought hard work and loyalty could buy me a decent life. I grew up in a small town just outside Charlotte, North Carolina, in a house with a sagging porch and a garage full of tools, raised by parents who saw me as the dependable one, and my younger brother Alex as some kind of fragile miracle. I learned early that love in my family came with conditions, conditions I could never meet, no matter how many straight A's I brought home or how many late nights I spent learning to wire a house. I met Sophie when I was 27, rewiring upscale apartments downtown, and she was the first person who made me feel like I wasn't invisible. We were a team until we weren't. Now here I was staring at the woman I'd planned to marry, the woman carrying a kid that might belong to my own flesh and blood, and all I could feel was this roaring, red-hot rage swallowing me whole. I didn't stick around to hear her excuses. I climbed out of her car, the humid March air hitting me like a slap, and slammed the door so hard the window rattled. She called after me, "Jake, wait, please. I'm so sorry." Her voice desperate, but I was already gone, my boots crunching gravel as I headed for my truck. I drove straight to my parents' place, the 20-minute ride a blur of headlights and half-formed thoughts. All I could see was Alex's smirking face, that lazy grin he'd flash whenever he got away with something, which was always. When I barged into the office behind the house, there he was, sprawled in Dad's old chair like he owned the damn place, fiddling with a stack of invoices he probably didn't even understand. He looked up, saw my face, and froze. "Listen, bro, I can explain," he started, but I didn't let him finish. I grabbed his shirt, yanked him out of the chair, and drove my fist into his nose. Blood sprayed, hot and wet against my knuckles, and he hit the floor with a yelp. I'd have kept going. God, I wanted to, but Dad and two of our guys, Pete and Rick, hauled me off him. Their voices a jumble of, "Calm down, Jake," and "What the hell's wrong with you?" Alex scrambled back, clutching his face, and spat out, "You're crazy, man. She came on to me first. We're in love." Love. My own brother, who'd watched me plan a life with Sophie, who'd sat across from me at Sunday dinners with that smug little secret, had the nerve to call it love. Dad stepped in then, his broad shoulders filling the doorway, his voice booming over the chaos. "Enough. We're settling this like adults." I wiped Alex's blood off my hand onto my jeans, my chest heaving, and glared at him. That's when Alex dropped the next bomb. "She's having my baby, Dad. You can't just ignore that." The room went dead silent. Mom, who'd been hovering near the kitchen door, gasped and started crying, her hands fluttering to her mouth. Janet, our receptionist since I was a kid, grabbed her purse and bolted. I found out later she quit right then, said she couldn't stomach working for liars. Dad's face went pale like he'd been sucker punched, but he still turned to me and said, "Son, wait, we can figure this out. Family's family." I looked him dead in the eye, my voice low and steady despite the storm inside me. "Alex stopped being my family the second he touched her. And you're just as bad for letting him." I walked out, leaving them all standing there in the wreckage, and didn't look back. It wasn't always like this. Growing up, I thought I had a shot at mattering. Mom and Dad weren't bad people, just skewed. Alex was born sick, a tiny bundle of wheezing lungs and hospital bills, and they never let him forget he was their miracle. Me, I was the spare, the one who didn't need coddling. By 7, I was mowing the lawn and acing spelling tests while Alex got ice cream for just breathing without a tube. I remember one time in high school, I got detention for showing up late after helping Dad on a job, and he grounded me for a week. That same month, Alex skipped class to smoke weed at the mall, and all he got was a talk over dinner. "He's been through a lot," Dad would say, like I hadn't been through anything at all. I started working for Larson Electrical at 15, not because I loved stripping wires, but because it was the only way Dad noticed me. I got good at it, damn good. I stayed late, studied manuals, watched YouTube tutorials until my eyes burned. Alex, he'd charm clients with his sob story. Poor sick kid makes good, but he couldn't tell a circuit breaker from a light switch. Still, Dad ate it up, always finding a way to praise him, even when I was the one pulling the weight. Sophie changed everything. We met 6 years ago on a job downtown, big rewiring gig at some fancy apartments. She was the property manager, 5'6" of fire and steel, arguing with HVAC guys about their shoddy ductwork like she'd written the building code herself. I was smitten right then, watching her point at a blueprint and demand they redo it. "Cheap and fast gets you lawsuits," she snapped. And I thought, this woman's different. When she'd swing by our work sites, not to nag but to learn, asking smart questions about voltage and grounding. We started taking lunch breaks together, her with a turkey sandwich, me with a thermos of coffee, and talked about more than just work. She got it, you know. Her brother was a hotshot lawyer, the golden child she could never outshine, and we'd laugh about starting a club for the overlooked siblings. After the job ended, she faked an electrical emergency at her place just to see me again, a ballsy move I couldn't help but admire. We were dating within a month, and she didn't play games like other girls I'd known. If she was mad, she'd say it. If she was happy, she'd light up the room. She even helped me study for my electrician exams, quizzing me over pizza until I could recite codes in my sleep. She moved in after 2 years, and we turned Larson Electrical into something real. She overhauled the billing, ditched Dad's scribbled quotes for proper contracts, and dragged us into the 21st century while I pushed for smart home systems and bigger jobs. Dad grumbled. She wasn't old school like him, but even he couldn't deny the money rolling in. We got engaged 4 years in, nothing flashy, just me popping the question after we finished a hospital rewiring project together. She'd stayed up with me, poring over plans, and it felt right, like we were partners in every way. Mom loved her, always dragging her over for dinner or tech help, and Dad warmed up once he saw her knack for business. Even Alex liked her, which should have been my first clue. I'd vent about his latest screw-up, dropping out of college, tanking some dropshipping scam, losing Dad's cash day trading, and she'd say, "Give him a break, Jake, he's had it rough." I'd shrug it off. She was just being kind, right? Wrong. A year ago, Alex slunk back home, broke again after some crypto hustle flopped. Dad gave him a job, basic stuff, answering phones, filing papers, but he couldn't even do that without screwing up. Sophie started spending more time at my parents' place, saying she was helping Mom with wedding plans and training Alex on the new systems. I was out on jobs, busting my ass to save for a house, so I didn't question it. Then the cracks showed. She locked her phone, first time in 6 years. She'd snap at me if I asked about Alex, saying, "He's not as useless as you think." He started showing up to work on time, smelling like cologne instead of last night's beer, wearing new clothes I knew he couldn't afford. They'd work late together, and Janet, our receptionist, this tough old broad who'd been like a second mom, started giving me these pitying looks. I'd ask, "What's up?" And she'd just shake her head. One night, I came back early from a job, ran out of conduit, and found them in the break room laughing over something on her laptop. They jumped when I walked in, and Sophie stammered, "Just invoices." But the vibe was off, like I'd caught them with their hands in the cookie jar. 6 months back, at a family dinner, it got worse. Sophie barely spoke, kept checking her phone under the table. Alex cracked some inside joke about that crazy guy at work, and she snorted like it was the funniest thing ever. I asked what was so hilarious, and they both said, "You had to be there." Driving home, I couldn't take it anymore. "You okay?" I said, glancing at her. "You've been off all night." She shrugged, eyes on her phone. "Just tired. Work's nuts." I pushed. "You and Alex seem tight lately." Her jaw clenched, but she played it cool. "He's not as bad as you think. He's funny if you give him a chance." "Funny? Since when?" "Funny enough to ignore me all night?" I shot back. She bristled. "What's that mean? I can't have my own conversations now? Everything's about you?" That stung. She'd never talked to me like that. "Just feels like something's changed," I said. She rolled her eyes. "Maybe you're paranoid. I'm sick of you trashing Alex. He's trying. Trying." The word echoed in my head all night, keeping me awake while she pretended to sleep beside me. Then came that Tuesday. I was at a warehouse job, knee-deep in wires, when Sophie called, sobbing so hard I thought her dad had died. "I need to see you," she choked out. "It's urgent." I told the crew I had a family emergency and sped home, my heart hammering. She was parked in our driveway, still in her car, gripping the wheel like it was a lifeline. That's when she hit me with it. The pregnancy, the betrayal, the whole damn mess. After I left her there, after I punched Alex and walked out on my family, I crashed at my buddy Mike's place. Mike's a welder, a big guy with a bigger heart, and he didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and let me stew on his couch. I turned my phone off for a week, trying to make sense of the rubble that used to be my life. When I finally powered it back on, I had 50 missed calls. Mom, mostly, some from Sophie, even a couple from Alex, that ballsy bastard. Mom's voicemails were all tears and begging. "Please, Jake, come talk to Dad. He's got a plan." I should have known better, but Mom sounded so broken I gave in. Walking into their house felt like stepping into a funeral. Mom's eyes were sunken, like she hadn't slept since I left. Dad sat in his recliner, all stern and businesslike, ready to lecture. Alex was there too, his nose a purple mess. I won't lie, that felt good to see. Dad cleared his throat. "Son, I've thought this through. Since you won't work it out with Sophie, and with her condition, it makes sense for her and Alex to get married. And since they're starting a family, I'm giving Alex the business. Sophie knows the office and he's learning the trade." I cut him off, laughing like a lunatic. "Learning the trade? He can't wire an outlet without frying himself." Dad's face hardened. "He's shown interest. I want you to train him." I lost it, that crazy laugh bubbling up again. "Let me get this straight. You want me to train the guy who screwed my fiancée to take over the business I built, while they play house with a kid that might be mine? Are you insane?" Mom started sobbing. Alex stared at the floor like a whipped dog. Dad pulled his trump card. "This business is mine. If you won't help, find somewhere else to work." That was it, the final knife. All those years, all that sweat, meant nothing next to Alex's latest fuck-up. I stood up. "I'm done. Good luck with your new dream team." Alex piped up. "Bro, wait." I spun on him. "Call me bro again, and I'll break more than your nose." Dad yelled about loyalty as I walked out, but I didn't hear it. I was gone. All right, let's keep going. I'm picking up right where we left off, diving deeper into the fallout, Jake's rebuilding, and the messy unraveling of my family's choices. I'll weave in new characters, ramp up the emotions, and set the stage for some satisfying twists. Here we go. Boom. I didn't sleep that night. After storming out of my parents' house, I drove aimlessly, the hum of my truck's engine the only thing keeping me from losing it completely. The streets blurred past, neon signs, darkened storefronts, the occasional flicker of a porch light, and all I could feel was this hollow ache where my life used to be. I ended up at Mike's place around midnight, banging on his apartment door like a madman. He opened it in boxers and a stained t-shirt, his beard scruffy from a long shift. and took one look at me. Jesus, Jake, you look like hell. Get in here. I collapsed on his couch, the springs creaking under me, and he didn't push for details, just slid a cold Miller Lite across the coffee table and sat down in his ratty armchair. Sophie's pregnant, I said finally, my voice rough as sandpaper. His eyebrows shot up, but he stayed quiet. Might be Alex's. Mike let out a low whistle, leaning back. Your brother, that little shit? What did you do? I flexed my bruised knuckles, still tingling from connecting with Alex's face. Broke his nose, walked out on all of them. Mike nodded like it was the most natural thing in the world. Good, stay here as long as you need. I got your back. That's Mike, solid as a rock, no bullshit. I crashed there for a week, phone off, just me and the static of his old TV to drown out the noise in my head. Sophie cleared out of our place while I was gone. I came back on a rainy Tuesday, the sky gray and heavy, matching the weight in my chest. The house felt empty without her. Her books gone from the shelf, her coffee mug missing from the sink. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter, scribbled in her neat handwriting. Jake, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this. I'll figure things out. Please don't hate me. I crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash, my jaw tight. Hate her? I didn't know what I felt. Rage, sure, but under it was this dull, throbbing hurt I couldn't shake. I poured a glass of bourbon and sat on the couch, staring at the wall where we'd hung a photo from our first vacation. Some cheesy beach trip to Myrtle. It was gone now, just a faint outline on the paint. I downed the drink, the burn in my throat, a welcome distraction, and decided right then. I wasn't rebuilding with her ghost hanging around. I needed out. Next day, I called up Carter Hayes, an old competitor of Dad's who'd been sniffing around my skills for years. Carter's a wiry guy, mid-50s with a buzz cut and a grin like a used car salesman, but he runs Hayes Electric tight. Good boss, fair pay, no favoritism. I met him at a diner off Route 49, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like tar. He slid into the seat across from me, his blue eyes sharp. Heard you're a free agent, Larson. Your dad finally screw you over for good? I smirked, bitter. Something like that. You got room for me? He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Room? Hell, I'd kill for a guy like you. You're the real deal. Codes, smart systems, the works. What's your price? I named a figure 20% higher than what Dad paid me, half expecting him to balk. He didn't. Done. Start Monday. And Jake? No family drama here. I don't play that game. I shook his hand, feeling a spark of something. Hope, maybe, for the first time in weeks. Working for Carter was a revelation. No babysitting Alex, no tiptoeing around Dad's ego. I threw myself into it. Big commercial jobs, security installs, stuff I'd begged Dad to take on, but he'd waved off as too fancy. Carter let me run with it, and the crew respected me, not because I was the boss's son, but because I knew my shit. I met Emily about a month in on a job wiring a new brewery downtown. She's 30, a bartender with short black hair and a laugh that cuts through the noise, all sharp wit and no nonsense. I was testing a panel when she strolled over, a tray of empty glasses balanced on her hip. You the guy keeping the lights on? She asked, smirking. I glanced up, caught off guard by her green eyes. Trying to? You the one pouring the beer? She grinned. Only if you finish before we open. Buy you a drink when you're done? I hesitated. Sophie's betrayal still stung, but something about her ease pulled me in. Deal, I said. We hit it off over IPAs that night, trading stories about lousy exes and crazier families. She didn't pry, just listened, and when I walked her to her car, she bumped my shoulder. You're all right, Jake. Don't let the bastards grind you down. I laughed, first real laugh in months, and thought maybe I could start over. Meanwhile, back at Larson Electrical, the shit hit the fan. Mom texted me bits and pieces. I told her no Alex or Sophie updates, but she couldn't help slipping in hints. Things are tough here, she'd write, or Dad's stressed. I ignored it, focusing on my new gig, until she called one night at 11 p.m., sobbing so hard I could barely make out the words. Jake, please, we're losing everything. Talk to your father. I almost hung up. Why should I care? But her voice cracked me open. Please, honey, he's desperate. I sighed. Fine, put him on. Dad's voice came through, thin and shaky, not the gruff command I knew. Jake, it's bad. Alex, he's ruined us. I sat on my couch, the one Sophie hated because it was too lumpy, and listened as he laid it out. Alex botched 3 big jobs. Wrong wiring, no grounding, junction boxes exposed like a fire waiting to happen. One client suing, claiming code violations could have torched their building. Instead of hiring pros, Alex tapped his college buddy Trevor, some burnout who'd bragged about changing a fuse once, to be chief electrician. Trevor, the guy who'd puked in our pool at Alex's 21st birthday. Real professional outfit they had going. It got worse. Alex stopped paying the liability insurance, said it was a waste, and pocketed the cash instead. He took cash payments from clients, didn't log them, and, get this, pulled loans against the company, hundreds of thousands, without telling Dad. Where'd the money go? No one knows. His bank's empty, but Mom mentioned a shiny new Dodge Charger parked at their place before it all crashed. Dad only found out when the insurance lapsed and a bank notice hit their mailbox. He hid it all, Dad said, his voice trembling. Cooked the books, just like Sophie showed him. That name hit me like a punch. Sophie, my Sophie, teaching him how to screw us over. Most of the crew quit, checks bounced, Alex treated them like dirt, and Janet had warned Dad months ago about sketchy numbers. He'd brushed her off. Now here he was, begging. Come back, Jake. Fix this. I'll make you majority owner. Full control. I let the silence stretch, my pulse thudding in my ears. I told you he'd tank it, I said finally. You didn't listen. Not my mess anymore. He pleaded, we'll lose the house, everything. Your mom's falling apart. I swallowed hard. She can stay with me. Just her. That's it. He went quiet, then tried guilt. Family's family, son. I cut him off. You said that when you gave him my life. Enjoy your family now. Mom called back later, still crying. We might be homeless, Jake. Please help. It gutted me. She didn't deserve this, but I held firm. My door's open for you, Mom. Not him. She sighed, defeated. I can't leave your father. I nodded, though she couldn't see it. Then that's your call. I'm done burning myself to keep you warm. I hung up, my hands shaking, and poured another bourbon. I wanted to feel something, triumph maybe, watching them reap what they sowed. But all I felt was tired, like I'd been carrying their weight my whole life and only just set it down. Then Sophie texted, I know you hate me, but I need help. The baby's yours. DNA proved it. Alex took everything and ran. I've got nowhere to go. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. Mine. After all that, the kid was mine, but yes. It should have hit harder, shifted something big, but I just felt numb. I typed back, call my lawyer, and left it at that. No way was I diving back into her chaos, not after she torched our bridge and danced on the ashes. Emily noticed me off at work the next day, pulling me aside during a break. You're quiet, what's up? She asked, her voice soft but firm. I rubbed my face, debating, then spilled it. Sophie, the baby, all of it. She listened, arms crossed, then said, You're not going back to that, right? You're better than their mess. I met her eyes, steady and clear. Nope, lawyers handle it now. I'm done playing savior. She nodded, satisfied. Good, you deserve more than their scraps. She squeezed my arm, and I felt a flicker of warmth, a lifeline I hadn't known I needed. Dad showed up unannounced a week later, standing on my porch when I got home from work. He looked rough, unshaven, wearing an old jacket I remembered from when I was a kid, driving Mom's Civic because they'd sold his truck to cover debts. Can we talk? He asked, not demanding, just tired. I let him in, partly to show him I didn't need him anymore. My new place isn't much, a small ranch house from my promotion at Hayes, but it's mine, paid for with my own sweat. He stood in the living room looking lost, like he didn't know how to talk to me without barking orders. He sat down, hands clasped, and unloaded. The business is dead, 2 lawsuits, clients bailing, bank taking the house next month. I should have listened, he said, his voice cracking. You were right. First time he'd ever admitted it. He slid a folder across the table. Papers giving me 100% control, no strings. You can save it. You always knew how. I was too proud. Was it 6 months ago I'd have jumped at it. Validation, power, dad's mea culpa. Now, I just saw a trap. Where's Alex? I asked. His face fell. Took our savings last week and bolted. Left a note about finding himself. Classic Alex, wreck shit and run. He's still your brother, Dad said weakly. I snorted. He stopped being that when he fucked my fiancée. Sound familiar? That hit him hard, and I didn't care. He tried again, pitching us rebuilding together, being real family. I laughed cold. I don't want it, Dad. You gave it to Alex, remember? Live with that. He went quiet, then asked, where'd I go wrong? I could have unloaded. Years of favoritism, excuses for Alex, throwing me away for a thief, but what's the point? You got what you wanted, I said. Alex in charge. How's that going? He left after that, looking ancient, and I didn't feel a damn thing. No joy, no regret, just done. Here we go, pushing forward with the rest of the story. I'm ramping up the stakes, bringing in the Las Vegas twist, Sophie's courtroom moment, and Jake's final steps toward closure. I'll keep the emotions vivid, the situations tense, and sprinkle in new characters to round it out. Let's dive back in. Welcome. A few days after Dad's visit, I was still chewing on Sophie's text. The baby's mine, Alex gone, her pleading for help. It sat in my gut like a stone, heavy and cold, but I couldn't let it pull me under again. I'd meant what I said, lawyers only. No more late-night heart-to-hearts, no more picking up her pieces. I called up Dave Miller, a guy I'd met through Carter, a lawyer with a buzz cut and a no-nonsense vibe, the kind who'd seen every flavor of family drama and didn't blink. We met at his office, a cramped room above a pawn shop, papers stacked high on his desk. I slid my phone across to him, Sophie's message glowing on the screen. She says it's mine. DNA backs it up. What now? I asked, my voice flat. Dave skimmed it, then leaned back in his chair, tapping a pen against his lip. First we verify. She sends the test results. We get our own if needed. Then custody, support, clean, legal, no contact unless it's court-ordered. You want in this kid's life? I nodded slow. Yeah, I'm not Alex. I don't run. He grinned sharp. Good, I'll draft it up. She tries anything funny. We've got leverage. Her and your brother's little scam could bury her credibility. I liked Dave. He didn't sugarcoat, just cut to the bone. Work kept me sane. Carter had me running a new project, wiring a strip mall on the edge of town, all sleek lines and big glass windows. The crew was tight, guys like Pete from the old days who jumped ship when Alex started bouncing checks. Pete clapped me on the back one morning, his grizzled face splitting into a grin. Heard your brother's running a circus over there. Sorry, man, but you're better off with us. I smirked, stripping wire with a flick of my knife. Yeah, well, circus is too kind, more like a dumpster fire. He laughed and it felt good, normal, like I was clawing my way back to something solid. Emily swung by that afternoon, dropping off a coffee from the brewery. Thought you could use a pick-me-up, she said, leaning against my truck, her black hair catching the sunlight. I took it, our fingers brushing, and felt that spark again. Thanks, rough week. She tilted her head, studying me. Family crap? I nodded, sipping the coffee. Strong, just how I liked it. Always is, but I'm handling it. She smiled, soft but fierce. Damn right you are. Don't let him drag you back. I watched her walk off, hips swaying, and thought maybe she was right. Maybe I could keep moving forward. Then Mom called again. Early March, her voice shaky over the line. We're moving to Ohio, Jake. Your Aunt Sue's taking us in. Dad's looking for work. I stood in my kitchen, the phone pressed to my ear, picturing her packing up that house. The one I'd grown up in, the one I'd fixed 100 times when the wiring fritzed. You okay? I asked, softer than I meant to. She sniffled. No, but I'll manage. I wish you'd help, honey. Just a little. I clenched my jaw, the old guilt tugging at me. My offer stands, Mom. You can stay here. Just you. She sighed, long and weary. I can't leave him. You know that. I did, and it stung. Her loyalty to Dad was a chain I'd never break. Then take care, Mom. Call if you need me. I hung up, staring at the fridge where she'd stuck a photo of us once. Me, Alex, her, Dad, grinning at a 4th of July cookout. It was gone now, like everything else. That's when I decided Alex didn't get to just vanish. He'd torched my family, stolen their savings, and left me with a kid I hadn't planned for. I wasn't letting him slink off to some cushy hideout. I called up Tony Ramirez, a private investigator Carter swore by, a stocky guy with a leather jacket and a scar over his left eyebrow, like he'd walked out of a noir film. We met at a dive bar off the highway, neon buzzing overhead. I slid him a wad of cash and a photo of Alex from last Christmas, his arm around Sophie, both of them smiling like they hadn't a care. Find him, I said. He's got my parents' money, maybe more. I want him nailed. Tony pocketed the cash, his dark eyes glinting. Any guesses where he'd run? I thought of Alex's big talk. Casinos, flashy cars, the high life he'd chased with every failed scheme. Try Vegas. He's got a hard-on for the Strip. Tony nodded. Give me a week. If he's there, I'll sniff him out. I left the bar feeling lighter, like I'd taken back a piece of control. Tony delivered 6 days later. I was at home, tinkering with a smart thermostat I'd picked up to test when he called. Your boy's in Las Vegas, all right. Holed up at the Bellagio, blowing cash like it's confetti. New car, new girl, some blonde he's calling Babe. Got photos, bank trails, the works. He's using an alias, but it's sloppy. I gripped the phone, my pulse racing. He's got my folks' savings? Tony chuckled, dry. Oh yeah, and some loans he pulled under your dad's name. I'm talking felony-level shit. Embezzlement, fraud. You want him gift-wrapped for the cops? I didn't hesitate. Do it. Send everything to the Charlotte PD, copy my lawyer. Tony whistled. Cold, man, I like it. Consider it done. 2 days later, I got the text. Larson A. arrested 3/15/25, Las Vegas. Extradition pending. I sat back, staring at my ceiling, and felt a grim satisfaction settle in. Not joy, but justice, hard and unyielding. Sophie showed up next, uninvited, a week after Alex's arrest hit the news. I was grilling burgers on my porch with Emily, her idea, a lazy Sunday thing, when Sophie's Honda rolled up. She stepped out, thinner than I remembered. A baby strapped to her chest in one of those carrier things. My heart lurched. The kid had my eyes, dark and steady, peering out from under a tiny cap. Emily tensed beside me, but I waved her off. I got this. Sophie stopped at the steps, her voice small. Jake, I know you said lawyers, but I had to see you. This is him, our son, Ethan. I stared at the baby, my son, and felt this raw, messy mix of love and fury. You don't get to do this, I said low. Show up like it's nothing, after everything. She teared up, rocking Ethan gently. Alex left me with nothing. I'm in a motel, Jake. I just need help. For him. Emily stepped forward, her voice cutting in. You've got some nerve, lady. He's not your lifeline anymore. Sophie flinched, but I held up a hand. She's right, I told Sophie. I'll support him. DNA's filed. Courts will sort it. But you and me, that's dead. Go. She nodded, defeated, and drove off. Emily watched her go, then turned to me. You okay? I exhaled, shaky. Yeah, just seeing him's different. She squeezed my hand. You're a good guy, Jake. Don't forget it. The custody hearing came a month later, mid-April, in a stuffy courtroom downtown. Sophie sat across from me, Ethan in her lap, her lawyer a nervous kid fresh out of school. Dave stood beside me, cool as ice, laying out my case. Stable job, clean record, willing to co-parent. Sophie's side pushed for full custody, claiming I'd abandoned her. Bullshit. And Dave shredded it with texts and timelines. The judge, a gray-haired woman with sharp eyes, ruled fast. Joint custody, mister. Larson gets weekends and holidays. Support set at $800 a month. Miss Bennett, get your act together. This child needs stability, not excuses. I walked out feeling lighter, like I'd claimed something back, not just Ethan, but me. Alex's trial news trickled in after that. Extradited to North Carolina, he pled guilty to embezzlement. 5 years, no parole shot with his record. Mom sent me a letter from Ohio, handwritten, saying Dad took a warehouse job and they're scraping by. We miss you, she wrote. I'm proud, even if I messed up showing it. I didn't reply, but I kept it in a drawer. Emily asked about my family one night, sprawled on my couch after a movie, some dumb action flick we'd laughed through. We're not close, I said simple. She nodded, didn't push. You're close enough for me. I kissed her then, slow and sure, and felt the past loosen its grip a little more. Last week I took Ethan for my first weekend. He's 6 months now, all chubby cheeks and curious hands tugging at my beard while I showed him a toy truck. I lay awake that night, him snoring in a crib beside my bed, and thought about how screwed up it is. He's tied to Sophie, to Alex, to all that pain. But he's mine too, and I won't let their mistakes define him. I'm building something new. Work's good, Emily's real, Ethan's here. Revenge isn't the win I thought it'd be, so it's just quiet. Living well, like they say, is the best I've got. And for now, that's enough. What about you? Share your opinion about this.